I lusted after my male client and did it with him. I am a sex therapist. I never thought I'd do something so unwise, something that could potentially mean I'd lose my license. I had been treating this married couple who had been coming to me for about 4 months to deal with the underlying reasons for their intimacy issues. The husband is very muscular and attractive. He kind of reminds me of a movie star. The wife is pretty as well, but seemed to have no interest in being intimate with her high-drive husband. The more we talked, and he described certain fantasies he wished they could play out, the more I found myself drawn to him. His fantasies were mine. It was as if he was reading my mind. I'd get so turned on, my G-string would be soaked by the end of our sessions. One day, he showed up for a scheduled appointment, and his wife didn't. They'd had a fight, he said. I asked if he wanted to talk about the fight, and he proceeded to tell me that they'd been preparing to be intimate for the first time in months. She had agreed to engage in a particular act, and he was understandably excited about it. He said she was literally a half-inch away when she suddenly stopped and said she didn't want to, that she found it too uncomfortable. Then she ran out of the room. He was obviously upset, still very eager. He tried to get her to come back, but she said he was intimacy obsessed and she had no interest in catering to his needs. I felt so bad for him, and I wished I could help him feel better. I noticed myself becoming more emotionally involved as I could see his discomfort. Before my mind fully grasped what I was doing, I found myself telling him that I was good at providing the comfort he was seeking. I watched his mouth drop, and then after a moment's hesitation, he stood up and walked over to me. He ran his fingers through my hair, looked into my eyes, and said with that deep, earnest voice, "Show me." I undid his belt and his pants and provided the comfort he was longing for. I've never felt so satisfied as I did with the first groan he let out. It was so hot to know I was pleasuring this gorgeous man. I loved the way he gripped my hair and held my head just the way he liked it, as he thrust a bit. After a few minutes, he asked if we could have an intercourse. I was very aroused at this point and I said yes please. So he stood me up, turned me around and pushed my pencil skirt up around my waist as I bent over the back of one of the chairs. He didn't bother taking off my panties, but pushed them to the side as he thrust in deep and hard. It literally took my breath away. I unbuttoned my blouse, and his hands pushed my bra down so he could cut my large, full melons. I knew his wife was small-chested, and as he massaged my massive melons he moaned and said something about how perky they were for being so big. So, he stood me up, turned me around and pushed my pencil skirt up around my waist as I bent over the back of one of the chairs. He didn't bother taking off my panties, but pushed them to the side as he thrust in deep and hard. It literally took my breath away. I unbuttoned my blouse, and his hands pushed my bra down so he could cut my large, full melons. I knew his wife was small-chested, and as he massaged my massive melons he moaned and said something about how perky they were for being so big. It was then I realized he was watching us in the decorative mirror on the opposite wall. I was struck by how erotic we looked. I've never had intercourse while looking in a mirror before. It was incredibly hot. Then he put his hand down there in my private part and whispered in my ear what a bad girl I was, having intimacy with my married client in my office. He didn't last past that point. He thrusted some more and released his load inside me. After, I told him that we absolutely cannot ever do that again, that I would lose my job if someone found out. We agreed that we couldn't. But it's now only a few days later, and I know it will happen again. We're going to explore one of his fantasies.